Great editing doesn't hinge on one big decision. Rather, it's the cumulative effect of a bunch of small ones. And today I'm going to give you 4 simple but very powerful editing techniques that I recently used on a broadcast commercial. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to take those into your own editing today. My name is Austen Menges, and I've been a pro editor for over 20 years. And today I'd like to invite you into my edit suite and into a conversation with Scott Rice, who is a veteran commercial director and current co-professor with Matthew McConaughey at the University of Texas at Austin. And we're going to take you through a recent commercial we both worked on and show you exactly how to incorporate these 4 techniques. So let's start by taking a look at the spot.
Hey, just a reminder that me and some friends are headed to the credit card bill tomorrow.
Again, I hate that you're always going to the credit card. Why can't you stay here and do things with us?
You don't generate the same interest. You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Get your money working and keep more of it at home with 0% interest for 6 months on new Visa credit cards.
She knows what I meant.
The first editing technique I want to talk about is the importance of reaction shots. And in this spot, we have a very important one where a lot of our comedy in the spot hinges on it. And it's where we cut to the wife's reaction of the dollar bills line toward the end of the spot.
You don't generate the same interest.
And so, Scott, can you please talk about the importance of reaction shots in general with editing, and perhaps also as related to comedy, and then the specific use in this actual spot?
Well, reaction shots are so important because we're communicating nonverbal information. So this is cinema. It's about images. So how someone reacts on their face or with their body oftentimes can say a lot more than a line. It can sometimes say the opposite of what someone's saying. It can indicate that someone is not telling the truth. It can indicate that someone's a lot more upset than we thought they were going to be. And that's exactly what we're doing in this spot. So it was really important to choose that perfect reaction. And I think that Austen did a great job of going really big with it. I think we tried a bunch of different reaction shots, some that were a little smaller, some that were kind of medium sized, but I'm pretty positive this is the biggest. We went for the biggest, broadest comedy we could on this because we thought the joke landed. There was a certain confidence that people would understand, or at least after we edited it. I think in the script stage, we weren't sure how much we had to help it along. But I think the double entendre worked. We felt like we landed the joke, and then we had the confidence to go with the biggest reaction from the wife, the most angry, shocked reaction we could possibly choose from. And, you know, kudos to the actor for giving us that reaction. That was very generous to do. Because sometimes actors don't want to go really big, but she was willing, and that ended up being the shot that the take that made the most sense for getting the laugh.
I think I made this mistake in my earlier years as an editor, cutting comedy, is you often think it's about the joke itself you're trying to get right, but now in my career I really know the laugh is typically coming for what happens after the punchline. And that's typically how the other characters or the person who said it is reacting to the joke and refining that. So when Scott and I were working on this commercial, we knew that, and kudos again to the actor for giving us this performance, but also many other options. Good actors will give you a lot of options to choose from that work, and it just matters what's working in the edit. And when Scott said we think this joke works, that's not just us saying we think it works, but we always test our work. So we show people, and we found that this spot, which was a part of a bigger campaign, really landed with people because I think we can all relate. I know I can, where you've said something that came out wrong. So now I want to shift to another editing tip that you can add to your editing, and this has to do with sound design, and it's something I think Walter Murch might have coined the term world building. Scott, talk about some of the sound effects we use to build the world, and then how editors can start adding this to kind of their bag of tricks in their own work.
Yeah, I think the big thing to figure out was what is playing on that television. So visually, we know they're looking at a TV. We've lit it that way. They're eating popcorn. They're sitting on a couch. We know they're watching television. But what are they watching? Are they watching cartoons? Are they watching a sitcom? Do we hear a laugh track going? And I think, Austin, you decided, or we decided together, that it's some kind of war movie. It's a drama.
Hey, just a reminder that me and some friends are headed to the credit card bill tomorrow.
Again, I hate that you're always going to the credit card. Why can't you stay here and do things with us?
And that kind of played into the combat between husband and wife that was going to happen, coming up very shortly. It also sounded like there's something kind of iconic and easy to understand about a period war movie where the explosions sound, it's not a current action movie that's really violent. We don't want to imply the kids are watching like a rated R action movie. We wanted it to feel like the kids are watching something innocuous. So like a 1940-something war movie, a classic film, kind of made sense. So that's what we did. And then also at the end of the spot in the button, we wanted to really reestablish that it's later in the night so that there's been this passage of time, there's been this ellipsis, and the crickets are really going now, and the TV is now off.
She knows what I meant.
We wanted to say, okay, the world is different, time has changed, a little bit of time has passed, we just hear crickets outside, and the TV is quiet. That war movie is now over.
Awesome, Scott. And the next technique I want to talk about is how we used music, and it was very specific to how we used it in this spot. Can you explain kind of our thought process and how we ended up using this music cue that happens over her reaction?
Well, once we decided to make it a war movie, we just found some needle drop music that sounded like, a score from a classic Hollywood 1940s movie about war, and we started to layer that in. But we used it to tell the story. First of all, there's some urgency to the music and this argument that's about to happen. But more importantly, we kind of have this dun-dun-dun moment in the music that you, Austen, perfectly timed with the moment where she's horrified by what her husband has said. And that, at that point, the diegetic story world music becomes non-diegetic score to underscore how horrified she is by what he's just said.
Diegetic music, just for those who don't know, that's when you have something that's coming from the world that you're in. So in this case, it's diegetic because it's music coming from the TV. It's meant to be in that world, where non-diegetic music is usually orchestral score or any music on a soundtrack that is part of the film. In this instance, we kind of crossed between those two, and I would urge you to try that in whatever you're editing, to think about music and placing it at just the right spots, and maybe going back and forth between is it diegetic or is it score, or using music from the world, diegetic music, to be in the place of score. So it's actually helping you hit those emotional moments. And this next point I would love for you to talk about, Scott, is how we use sound to amp up the comedy. In particular, where we have the wife move away from her husband, and we have this great couch squeak and close noise to accentuate this moment.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
It really works in comedy to bring a very specific sound effect to an awkward moment or a comedic moment that allows that moment to really kind of feel emphasized. So really go out of your way to look at those kind of comedic opportunities when it comes to sound effects. Maybe it's a little bird tweet that happens during an awkward pause, or in this case, a little creak of the couch as she moves away from her husband.
So thank you, Scott, for going through this spot with me. It was super fun. I hope you can add these elements to your edit today. If you like content like this, please download my free editing guide at the link in the description. And if you'd like to go further, also check out my editing course where my students are improving fast because they're working on real editing projects and they're getting personal feedback from me, which I think is the best and fastest way to get better at any craft. And if you like this video, check out this one next. Happy editing.